The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command now, of course, I'm your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So tonight, I wanted to talk about two things in particular. The first being best and worst case scenarios for the upcoming season. These are kind of self-explanatory. You kind of understand the concept. I think there is a middle ground. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but the likelihood is it's going to be one or the other. I don't see any way where we come away with another one of these middling seasons, 7, 8, possibly 9 wins, but miss the playoffs and things stay status quo, right? You either have to be really good or anything else is probably going to result in a total house cleaning and we start from anew, essentially. So we'll get to that in a second. Later on in the show, we're going to follow up with part 2 of Inside the Numbers. We talked about this last week. Last week was more of team numbers, team goals offensively, things that I feel like we need to improve upon to be a much more efficient football team offensively, to be more high-powered, score more points, put us in a better position to be among one of the better offenses in football. This week's show is more catered towards individual players on offense. What kind of projections and numbers I think are baseline numbers that we should be looking for to be successful in the upcoming season. So we'll get to that a lot later on in the show. And then, of course, any comments that you guys may have. So with that said, let's talk about best and worst case scenarios for the upcoming season, because I feel like obviously this season is, I don't want to say for all intents and purposes an inaugural season, but it feels like an inaugural season, right? Because of Daniel Snyder selling the franchise, because we're getting this fresh start, it's a clean slate, you're getting new ownership. The Commander's name is only 1 year old, right? Everything kind of feels new all over again. So for all intents and purposes, this feels like an inaugural season. And with that said, with Ron having been here for now 4 years, it's put up or shut up time for him. And I think in a best case scenario, and we've talked about this all offseason, or at least I have, best case scenario for Ron is that Eric Bieniemy is a slam dunk. However, if it's best case scenario for Ron, Eric Bieniemy is great, but just good enough to where Washington is successful offensively, but not quite successful enough for him to get a head coaching job again. Now, I don't know how those two things happen simultaneously, because if you take this Washington offense from the doldrums, which is where we are right now, and you take a 5th round pick quarterback that nobody thinks is any good, and you turn this into a top 15 offense, and we win 10 games and we make the playoffs, whether we win a game or not, Bieniemy has done his job. It's hard for me to fathom him not getting a head coaching gig next year. That's how my brain is wired. But again, this man was in Kansas City for the last 5 years as their OC. They went to 5 straight AFC championship games, 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them, and he didn't get a job. So I don't know if I should be so hasty to just say, oh, if he does this and this and this with Washington's offense, he should get a head coaching job. But the assumption is he's his own OC now. Everyone will be able to say, hey, that was away from Andy. He's, learned all of these things. He's ready to have control of his own franchise. Here he is. Here he goes. So Ron's best case is that we win, 10 plus games, make the playoffs, win a game, because I'm not even sure. I feel like if you win enough games to qualify for postseason play, again, it needs to be double digits. If Washington backdoors their way in at 8-1 or 9-8, I don't know if that's enough to make ownership feel like this is the right guy for the job. You win 10 games, you win 11 games, you get in, hard-fought playoff game, you don't win it, maybe that's enough. If I'm Ron, I treat this season like a championship prize fight. I don't want to leave it in the judges' hands. I'm looking for the knockout. If I'm Ron, I'm winning. I want to win double-digit games. I want to win a playoff game, leave no doubt. Because if you do that, there's no way you're getting fired. None. All right. So best case scenario for Ron is you win double-digit games. You win a playoff game. Bieniemy is back for one more year, but again, I can't see how those two things happen and Bieniemy's back, because again, all of this stuff is kind of interconnected. If we win 10 games, the offense is really good. You're not going to win 10 games more likely than not, and offense be what it was the last 3 years under Scott Turner. So unless the defense is just outrageously dominant, and I don't think that's going to occur either. But who knows? If EB is not back, the next scenario for Ron is that Tavita Pritchard, who you've brought in here to be the quarterback's coach, is soaking up everything from EB like a sponge, and he's ready to move right in seamlessly into the offensive coordinator position. That's what you're hoping for. If Ron wants any longevity whatsoever, because Ron knew exactly what he was doing when he brought EB here, and I feel like Ron was paying it forward. He's like, hey, Andy Reid gave me an opportunity and pushed me to get a job, and I ultimately got, a coordinator job with the Bears. And, the Chargers, I was the linebackers coach, got with the Bears. Lovey took me under his wing and gave me the opportunity. And it took me a long time to get hired as a head coach, but I finally got that opportunity. I'm going to do the same thing on my way out. Even if I don't, make it, I'm going to make sure that EB gets the opportunity that he needs to try to, be another minority coach in the league. And I commend Ron for that. But Ron's also trying to save his hide with this hire, because he thinks EB is going to come in here and bring a lot of that Chiefs flavor. And if he does, Ron's hoping that EB's got such an impact, has such an impact, such an impression, a lasting impression on the rest of the staff, that a lot of his characteristics and traits and things that he implemented carries over. The next guy steps in, you don't miss a beat, and Sam's the truth, and Ron is able to secure his job into the future. That's best case scenario for Ron Rivera. Eric Bieniemy, best case scenario, he does his job at a high level and he gets a head coaching gig. The best case scenario for Sam Howell is, again, continuity. This is a guy that came into the league last year under Scott Turner, totally different offense. Year 2, brand new offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, totally different offense. He would love to go out, kill it this year, and look up and have the exact same offense next year. And that's the problem when you have a defensive head coach, because if that offensive coordinator is doing his job at a high level, eventually he's going to be poached from your staff, get his own job, and you're going to have to find another guy. And it's okay when you got Aaron Rodgers or Ben Roethlisberger or Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Drew Brees. It's okay when you've got one of those Hall of Fame-esque quarterbacks. Even those guys, generally, if you look at the careers of those players that I just mentioned, for the most part, they had, maybe 1 or 2 at the most coordinators. I think Ben Roethlisberger, because Mike Tomlin is more of a defensive guy, Ben Roethlisberger probably had the most out of all of those guys. But for the most part, Peyton Manning was in the same offense in Indy for all those years. Tom Brady pretty much had the same offense. I think he started out with Charlie Weiss, and then he was with Josh McDaniels for a really long time. There was this brief period in there. McDaniels went over to Denver, but he came right back. And so it's kind of the same thing. Drew Brees and Sean Payton were tied at the hip, so he never really had to worry about that, which is what you ultimately want. But I can go on and on and on. The bottom line is, once you get established in the league, you're not worried about, oh, man, I got this quarterback and I got to find a new offensive coordinator and he's got to learn a new playbook, all that stuff. That only applies to young quarterbacks. You don't want a young quarterback's head spinning. You don't want him constantly having to change, the things that he learned the year before, learn a new offense, learn a new system, learn new terminology. You just want him to be able to grow and build on the things he had done the year before, right? And become better. We hear this all the time when it comes to football. You don't want guys thinking. It slows them down. You want guys to just go out and play. And best case scenario for Sam Howell is that he takes first of all, he has to take full advantage of this opportunity, okay? Because if he doesn't, he's not getting another opportunity next year. I can't stress that enough, which is why I'm all in on Sam, because I think he understands what's at play here. He's got to be good to the point where he saves Ron's job. Because even if he's excellent this year, but Ron gets canned and everybody else walks out the door with him, the next coach may tell, the ownership group, oh, yeah, we love Sam Howell. The same shit Jay Gruden did when he came here and said, oh, yeah, I can fix Robert Griffin III. No worries. Yeah, absolutely. He gets in here and he's like, hell no, I can't fix him. I want Kirk Cousins to be my quarterback. You'll say anything to get the job. All right. Ron did the same thing with Dwayne Haskins. He came in here and told old Danny Boy, yeah, Dwayne, yeah, we'll give him a shot. Absolutely. I think Dwayne can do it. And then 5 games into the season, Dwayne's ass is on the bench and he's rolling with Kyle Allen. And then next thing you know, Alex Smith is in the game and yada, yada, yada. So the next guy will come in and say whatever he needs to say to get the job. And honestly speaking, there are no ties to anybody on this roster. So new ownership comes in, they could give 2 shits about Sam Howell. As far as they're concerned, they're treating him like everybody else. He's a 5th-round pick. What do I care, right? Next GM comes in and says, hey, I don't believe in Sam Howell. They're going to say, okay, fine, go draft yourself a quarterback. They're not. So he's not safe unless Ron is here. Ron believes in him. Okay? Marty Herney believes in him. Martin Mayhew believes in him. He needs to keep those guys here with his play. So best case scenario for Sam Howell is that he goes out, kills it. It equates to wins, which qualifies you for bonus football. And just for safekeeping, just to be on the safe side, go ahead and get you a playoff dub while you're at it. That's the best case scenario for Sam Howell in the upcoming season, is that he knocks it out of the park to the point where Ron is back and there's no doubt about it, because that's going to secure his job. And all I feel like Sam needs is 2 good seasons to prove to everyone I can do this. And then you lock him up, just like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, if Russell Wilson would have said, yeah, I'll go to Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts isn't the starter in Philadelphia right now. Do you understand how that works? He took them to the playoffs last year or the year before. His first full year as a starter, Jalen Hurts took the Eagles to the playoffs. It wasn't pretty, but it didn't matter. He got them to the playoffs. And the Eagles were still trying to replace him. It wasn't until last year and that damn near MVP performance, taking them all the way to the Super Bowl, that they said, okay, you're the guy. Lock him up. Go ahead, get him a new deal. Keep him around for a while. I think Sam needs 2 good seasons, and it's hard to have 2 good seasons when you're switching coordinators every single year. So if Sam's best case scenario is that he kills it this year Everybody's back, including Eric Bieniemy, and he gets one more year in the system and is able to kill it again. And then everything that happens after that is whatever. He's already established himself. Best case scenario for the rest of the offense, and I'll go quickly through this exercise. Brian Robinson established himself as the number one back on this football team. Separates himself from anybody else. You know, there's this very small population of fans in the fan base that swears that Chris Rodriguez is going to be getting a ton of carries this year. And I don't know where they get this intel from. I think they look at what the Chiefs did last year with their 7th round running back, Isaiah Pacheco, and they say, oh man, you see that EB, was able to take a 7th round running back and turn him into a stud. I think he really likes Chris Rodriguez, which he does. He likes Chris Rodriguez, but I don't think he likes him more than Brian Robinson. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even think that's a debate. I don't even think that's something that we should be discussing. Thus, I need him to quiet the noise this year, and separate himself and show that he is the back that I think he can be. Antonio Gibson, I need him to establish himself as a Swiss Army do-it-all type of utility back. Any and everything you need done on the field, he can do it. I need him to turn into a watered-down version of Alvin Kamara this year. That's what I'm looking for out of him. And that would, best case scenario, that would land him a contract. Even if it's not here in Washington, it'll net him a sizable contract in the offseason. I'm thinking a guy with his type of skill set, if he's able to go out and put up Alvin Kamara type numbers, and I'm talking watered down version Alvin Kamara type numbers, not high usage rate Alvin Kamara type numbers. I'm talking modest numbers. He's a number 2 back in this offense. He's not the number 1. Alvin Kamara is the number 1 back in his offense, so it's a little different. But that's the kind of way that I'm looking for him to be utilized. A season like that could get him up to $7 million per year on a deal. I'm thinking when it's all said and done, Antonio Gibson is going to be somewhere in that 4 to 7 range, 4 to 6 rather range $1 million. I'm thinking it's like a 3-year, $18 million deal next year, whether it's here or somewhere else. If he balls out this year, it could easily be 3 for 24, and that's good running back money for someone of his stature and ilk. So we'll see what ultimately happens. As you get to the receivers, man, Terry just needs to continue to be Terry. I need him to take that next step. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but just continue to be Terry. Continue to, be the leader that you've been. Continue to lead the way. I love the fact, and the fact that this is even a conversation that some are having is a good one. I like the fact that there is this notion that Jahan Dotson is ultimately going to be the best receiver on this team, on this roster, and it's only a matter of time before he surpasses Terry. That's cute. Until I see it, I won't believe it. And if I'm Terry McLaurin, I'm looking to establish myself as the Don Dada. Like, okay, the young kid is going to be a great addition. I welcome it. I need the help. I'm looking forward to the help. Okay. But he's exactly that, help. He's not Batman, he's Robin. Okay. I don't mind having 2 Batmans. That's not a big deal to me. You saw what they were doing in Philadelphia last year, right? Batman. Everybody was Batman. I don't mind. But I need Terry to take that next step and establish himself as one of those bona fide stud receivers that everyone in the league looks at the other receivers as and not Terry as. It's time for him to step up and take that next step. And I think with better quarterback play, that's going to happen naturally. Terry has done nothing wrong other than be in a situation where the circumstances have limited his opportunity to explode like some of these other receivers. all of y'all like to shit on Kirk Cousins. I guarantee you, if you gave Terry McLaurin Kirk Cousins, he'd be up there with Justin Jefferson type numbers, Stephon Diggs type numbers. But he's been playing with, 3 or 4 different quarterbacks every single year and still posting numbers. So if Sam can stabilize that ship, I look for Terry to just naturally take that next step. Jahan, I'm looking for him, 1, stay healthy, 2, eclipse 1,000 yards. That's the best case scenario for him, and establish himself as a bona fide, legitimate number 2, or if we want to take it a step further, a legitimate 1B option. Okay. Curtis Samuel, do exactly what you did last year. If you take it up a notch, great. If not, if you just give me what you gave me last year, I'm cool with that. Okay. Curtis was fantastic. Curtis was everything we needed him to be as a third option. The problem was we didn't have Jahan for a third of the season. But Curtis was fan-effing-tastic. If he just gives us everything he gave us last year, I got no complaints. He was clutch on 4th down. He was a slot machine. He could get you the first down on 3rd down. We gave it to him in the run game. I actually thought they could be a little bit more creative with him and how he touches it. But all in all, he was fantastic last year. If we get a slight uptick in receiving yards, excellent. But as far as I'm concerned, all-purpose yards-wise, I think Curtis was hovering around 1,000. Don't think he quite made it. I think he had like almost 200 yards rushing and like 6 or 7 something receiving. Again, I'm totally fine with that. I'd like to see more touchdowns, if anything else. That'd be the one critique, is I'd like to see a little bit more touchdowns from him. And then as you get to the tight ends, it's really simple. I just need one of those guys to step up. I really don't give a damn who it is. One guy step up and say, hey, I'm the alpha. I'll take care of it. I'll get you 40 catches for 510 yards and 6 touchdowns. I'm the guy. Just one of y'all raise your hand. I don't really give a shit who it is. Somebody raise your hand, step up and say, I'll be that guy. If it's Cole Turner, great. That's even better because he's got a longer future, higher ceiling, all of that good stuff. If it is Logan Thomas, I'm fine with that as well. I got no problems with Logan Thomas. I actually think his game is going to age well because all the shit that he does, it's not going away with age, right? He's not going to get any slower. He's already slow. He's not going to, lose any agility. He already doesn't have any. His game is going to continue to look the same, next year, the year after that. So I don't have any issues with it if it's Logan Thomas or if it's Cole Turner. I don't really care. I just need a guy to step up and be the alpha of the group. All right. Defensively, best case senorio is that the D-line, and I'm lumping everybody together. I'm not singling out anybody on the D-line or the linebacker group or anything. I'm going to bunch these guys together. I may get with some individuals as we get into the secondary or linebackers, but for the most part, on the D-line, I'm looking for Payne and Allen to just do what they did last year. If we can get a duplicate copy of what Payne did last year, and then Allen just a tick higher in production, that'd be awesome. But if Allen just gave me exactly what he gave me last year, Allen, same thing. I no complaints over here. All right. With those two doing what they do inside, I just need the ends to finally step up, period. Like, this is the year for Montez Sweat. I'm convinced he's going to have that Daron Payne type leap. Chase Young, I really don't know. I really don't know what to expect. But as a collective unit, I'm looking for them to be as disruptive as the Eagles were last year up front. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not necessarily looking for us to threaten the all-time sack record for most sacks in a single season like the Eagles did last year, approaching the 85 Bears. Nah, That's not necessarily what I'm after. I just want that kind of disruption. I want to look around and say, oh, he got 9.5, he got 11, he got 10.5, he got 12. That's the kind of shit that I want to be on. With this group, we got the talent to do it. Now it's about those guys just going out and executing, right? Linebacker, honestly speaking, I just want to see one thing in particular, because at this point, I'm kind of like, it's whatever at linebacker. They clearly don't give a damn, so why should I? I just want to see this group take advantage of the 4 guys in front of them. That's what I want to see from this group. There should be more tackles for loss. There should be more action on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. When you got Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, Chase Young in front of you, when you got Fedarian Mathis coming off the bench, John Ridgeway coming off the bench, eating double teams, you should be able to roam free and be aggressive and make tackles on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. You should be meeting a guy in the hole at the line of scrimmage. There shouldn't be 4-yard runs before you make first contact. Not with what we got going on up front. I just want to see the linebacker group as a whole take advantage of this dominant unit that's in front of them and allow them to go out and make plays and go make the plays that are there to be made. That's what I want to see. And then finally, the secondary, I am really looking to see if somebody can step up in the slot. I'm not really worried about outside. You know, in doing this series that I'm currently doing, Reign of Terror. It was great to go back and look at some of the dominant guys we drafted. Like, we really drafted well in the late night for all of the bad shit that we did from the early to mid portion of the 90s, where it was hell drafting for us. We were terrible. Desmond Howard and Keith Schuler. I can go on and on. It was so refreshing as we got towards the end of the decade and the turn of the century. We were really drafting well in the early rounds. Like, you get John Jansen, you get Chris Samuels, you get Champ Bailey, you get LeVar Arrington. Like, we were hitting it out of the park with these early round draft picks. And it made me think about Champ Bailey, that rookie season of Champs in 99. Boy, was he special. He had 5 picks in his rookie season. I think he had another 5 in his second year. Like, immediately we knew, damn, we just hit a home run. We effed it up because that's what we did in those days. We didn't know. We effed up LeVar Arrington. We effed up the Champ Bailey situation. There's no way you trade Champ Bailey for Clinton Portis and then throw in a second-round pick in addition to Clinton Portis, or Champ Bailey, excuse me. There's no way Champ Bailey isn't worth more than Clinton Portis. But Joe valued the running back position. That was criminal. They stole from us. I was thinking to myself, what if Emmanuel Forbes is the second coming of Champ Bailey in terms of taking the ball away? Champ took it away immediately. He came in the league and took it away immediately. I remember a Sunday night game against the Arizona Cardinals. He had 3 picks, including a pick 6. Rookie season. What if Emmanuel Forbes comes in and immediately jumps in and does the same thing? And he's got that kind of ability. And I was thinking, as I'm going through this thing, I'm thinking, we had Fred Smoot on one side, Champ Bailey on the other side, and we still had Darryl Green. We could be cooking up some crack like that this year. The wily KG veteran, Kendall Fuller. You could have this ace of a corner that you just drafted in Emmanuel Forbes. And Benjamin St. Juste could be coming into his own. I'm looking to see who takes over that slot role, who takes ownership of it. That's what I'm looking for out of the secondary. I'm not worried about outside. I really think we're going to be fine outside. My biggest worry is inside. 3rd and 7. Do we have the ability to cover inside? Because we didn't last year. I'm not too concerned with the safety play, none of that. I'm anxious to see, do we have someone that can step up in the nickel? Best case, though, is we find nickel a la Kendall Fuller first go round, and that problem solved, and we don't have to worry about anything. And Emmanuel Forbes is the second coming to Champ Bailey in terms of taking it away early in his career. Juice stays healthy, and this secondary is wrecking shop. That's the best case scenario. D-line getting after the quarterback, secondary benefiting from it, secondary stifling receivers, defensive line getting to eat off of nobody being open down the field. It goes hand in hand. That's best case scenario. Jack doesn't have to blitz as much, which he doesn't anyway, but you don't feel compelled to blitz if you're getting great coverage or you're getting pressure. So that's the hope, right? That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, it's really simple. Sam Howell isn't good. Defense isn't good. Any one of these things transpires and this thing goes off the rails, everybody's gone, right? That's the worst case scenario. If Sam Howell isn't good, or the offensive line isn't good, or the defense regresses, and this team only wins 7, 8, 9 games potentially, but misses the playoffs, everybody's fired. And then there's a bunch of question marks. For most people, for a lot of fans, I won't say for most, for a lot of fans, the worst case scenario is their best case scenario because they don't want Ron around. They don't think he's the coach of the future here. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I'm not that guy to want to push somebody out, want someone to lose so that we can get change here. That's not, if it happens naturally, it happens. That's my way of going about it. Like, Ron isn't bad enough to the point where he's got to go. And like he was with Bruce, I was willing to take the biggest, fattest of L's to get Bruce. The only way Bruce was going to go, because he was talking that we're close shit every year and we would win 7 games and we're close. The only way Bruce was going to be gone, only way Dan was going to be gone is if this shit started to bottom out. It had to bottom out. I was willing to take that because we sucked anyway. That's not where we are anymore. We're not that team anymore. Our roster doesn't look anything like that anymore. So, honestly, something has to go awry for the worst case scenario to transpire. And it doesn't take much because we haven't established ourselves as an organization that has a huge margin for error. We don't have a wide margin for error. It's very slim. Okay. If Joey Slye misses a kick here or there, that's the difference between 10 wins or 8 wins, right? Our margin for error is that the Chiefs had a kicker that was missing kicks all over the place last year. He still won the Super Bowl. He got hurt. They had to bring in 2-3 different kickers during the year. Hell, they even had their safety kicking the football for them. They were having a little bit of fun, but they had so many different guys kicking, and they missed some kicks. But Harrison Butker was not himself last year. They got a huge margin for error, though. They're the Chiefs. They can get away with that. We're not the Chiefs. We can't get away with that. We need all of our points. So anything goes awry, defense regresses. Offensive line isn't anywhere near where we need it to be. Sam Howell still needs more seasoning. Anything like that, injuries do the thing that they've done to us in the past and destroy us from within. That's the worst case scenario. And everybody's fired. And if everybody gets fired, New ownership comes in here, hires a GM. That GM hires a coach. That coach fills out his staff. New OC, new DC, all of that good stuff. Then what? I mean, it's a bunch of questions. I'm not saying that's not for the best. It could ultimately be the best thing that happened to us, but we don't know. And you know, I'm human. The unknown is scary. Sometimes you rather deal with the devil you know than the devil you don't know. I believe in Sam, and I think a shift in front office and coaching staff and all, I think that's detrimental to his long-term success. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I wanted to get into something with y'all tonight. So numbers, right? Numbers. Let's talk numbers. Last week we talked about numbers. And just to recap real quick, I won't go over it. If you want that, you're going to have to go back to last week's video. But last week, I gave you Washington's 2022 rank in explosive / chunk plays, 20 yards or more. Then I even gave you some, 40 or more yard plays. And then I gave you what I think is acceptable. What's the baseline? What's the bottom floor of what Washington needs to have in order to be successful in the upcoming season? Red zone conversion rate, gave you the numbers for that from 2021 and 2022. And I gave you the number that I thought Washington needed to have in 2023 to be successful. Rush touchdowns. We were one of the worst teams in the league in the red zone, scoring rushing touchdowns. I've always said this to you guys, and I'm going to be consistent with this messaging because this is one of my staples. This is one of my core beliefs. The best red zone teams are able to run the football into the end zone. Yep, throwing it is great, and you got to be able to throw it, obviously, but the best red zone teams are the ones that can hurt you on the ground because there's way more margin for error when you run the football. When you throw it, bad things can happen. Poor snap, ball gets batted in the air. We saw that against the Bears when we played the Bears, right? They get down there a million times and stupid shit kept happening to them, and that benefited us, and it gave us a chance to win a game that we had no business winning, right? So, got to be able to run the football in the red zone. Sacks. We gave up too many sacks last year. Got to be better in that department. I think we will, just off of the strength of Sam having wheels and not being afraid to use them. I think we'll see that number come down, and just having a better offensive line. I think we'll see that number come down drastically. And then third downs. We have to be more efficient on third downs. We were not a great third down offense. Far from it last year. Need to be better in that department as well. And obviously we need to score more points. And so now I want to get into individual stats. All right. So let's go ahead and tackle some of this. So what you see in front of you are some numbers that I think, some players' statistics that I think are comparable to what I think is necessary for our development in the upcoming season. So the first graphic you see is passing yards and all of the statistics that go with it, right? So Mac Jones, who? Mac Jones, the miggity Mac, bow, the miggity Mac. This is his rookie season that you see in front of you. All right. So I'll just take my red box and we'll highlight this. And go ahead and stretch it out. And we'll get into the specifics of these statistics and what they mean. So what you see here is Mac Jones Passing yards and yards per attempt, completions, attempts, completion percentage, touchdowns, interceptions, passer rating, all that good jazz in his rookie season. Now, the Patriots qualified for postseason play in his rookie season. And so that's why I feel like these numbers are significant, because as a rookie, Mac Jones came in, Tom Brady exited stage left. He came in, picked up the baton, and ran with it. So here is a baseline, a working baseline, if you will, for what Sam Howell needs to do in the upcoming season. So 3,800 pass, that's a lot of passing yards for a rookie. Now, that's actually really impressive. I didn't know that Matt Jones had that many passing yards in his rookie season. So that's a lot of yards. I can't see Sam having that many yards in his rookie season. He could. I don't think he will. And for all intents and purposes, understand that this is pretty much a rookie season for Sam Howell. You know, and we can't even go with the benefit of, oh, you know, this is his second year, and because he's not even in the same offense. So the second year thing doesn't even really hold any weight. The only thing that him being in the league for a second year does is he's more comfortable, speed of the game, that sort of thing, how to prepare, you know, how to get ready for a game week. He was the second quarterback last year for about a 5-week stretch or so when Wentz was out. So, you know, he got to see what it's like to prepare. So that side of it, you can say, yeah, he's done that. But he is in a new offense. So all of that kind of gets thrown out the window. So 3,800 yards is a lot. That's a pretty tall order. Okay. 7.3 yards per attempt is a good number for a young quarterback. I mean, last year and the year before, we were at 6.8 with our quarterbacks. So 7.3 is pretty damn good, honestly speaking. This is a really impressive completion percentage by Mac Jones here. 67.6%. You're almost at 68%. You're hovering around 70% completion percentage for a rookie quarterback. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. And you wonder why they were able to make the playoffs. Yeah, the defense was outstanding that year. I mean, they had a stretch of like 8 weeks where I don't know if they surrendered more than 13 points in any of those games. The defense was the catalyst. But Mac Jones, as you can see, and they didn't have a lot of talent that year in his rookie season offensively. It wasn't until the next year that they went out and spent all that money. They didn't have any money that first year Tom Brady was gone. They didn't have any money to spend. Mac Jones did pretty well. 22 touchdowns, 13. I would love to see this. This is a little, that interception number is a little high for me. And if you're going to throw that many interceptions, then this touchdown number has to be elevated. I need at a bare minimum, I need a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio at a bare minimum, right? So if you're going to throw 13 interceptions, you better have at least 26 touchdown passes at a bare minimum. I'd like to see this number down around, 10. If I get it to 9, that'd be great. But, 10 is acceptable. If you're going to have 10 interceptions, obviously 2-to-1 is 20. We need more than 20 touchdown passes, though. Like, I think the number for Sam is going to be 27 or 28 is what I'm looking for. If we can go 27 or 28, and that's what we were looking for from Wentz last year. Remember, the number was 27/7. That's almost a 4-to-1, touchdown interception ratio. That's what I'm looking for. So if we can get this number down to, say, 7 or 8, I got no issues with 27 over 8, 29 over 9. I'm not tripping over that. The rating is good. That's a great number for a rookie. You see this number here, 52 pass plays over 20 yards. We had 46 as a team last year. That was rushing and passing combined. He had 52 throwing the ball in his rookie season. So we got to be more dynamic, man. And I expect that. He had 6 over 40, long of 75. But this is the big number here, sacks. In his rookie season, he only took 28 sacks. We took 48 sacks last year as a group quarterback. 48. He took 28 as a rookie. He wasn't holding on to the ball. He was getting rid of it, getting through his progressions, finding the open receiver. If it wasn't there, get it to the check down, move to the next play. That's a big number because sacks are debilitating. We went through this last week, so I don't have to do that again. So this is what I'm looking for out of Sam this year. These type of numbers right here. The passing yards, I think, is a bit much. I can't. I'm not going to put 38 on him. That's a lot. I didn't realize Mac Jones had that kind of year in his rookie season. That's a lot. If this number's 34, 33, that's more than enough for me. I can't even see Sam throwing it 520 times. That's a lot of attempts. Honestly speaking, I think this number is probably 470 something, 460 something. That's probably more realistic. 521 is a lot of attempts. So, and even the completion percentage, this is gaudy. I'd take that with more attempts, less attempts. I really don't give a shit. That 67, that's a huge number, man. Most times when rookies come in the league, they start in the 50s. You get a guy, a good year is 61.3 completion percentage for a rookie quarterback because, they speed of the game, having to adjust to new receivers, new playbook, all that. You're thinking, you're not moving as quickly, your mind isn't processing everything. Pre-snap reads, there's a lot that's put on your plate as a rookie, and that all contributes to a lower completion percentage. As you get more up to speed on what defenses are trying to do to you, you make pre-snap reads, understand what coverages are being played, where you need to go with the football. The offense like the back of your hand, where everyone is. That completion percentage goes up because now you're not thinking as much. You know what to do. That's a good one there. So that's where, and touchdowns up, interceptions down. That's kind of where I want it. But, all in all, this is what I'm looking for from Sam next year or this upcoming season. So this next one, as we go down here to rush yards, this one is Jamal Williams from this past year, his last year in Detroit. This is sort of what I'm looking for from our lead dog in 2023. I think Brian Robinson can have more rush yards than this, but being that he's going to share the load with Gibby and possibly even, Chris Rodriguez, I don't think he's going to have the, 310 attempts or anything like that. This isn't a single workhorse backfield. The only guys that eclipse 300 carries in a single season are the ones that aren't sharing the backfield with anybody else. That's not what we have going on here. So with that in mind, that 262 looks real good to me. All right. And let me see real quick what Brian Robinson had last year in terms of yardage rushing. carries rather, because I feel like he was up there. I feel like he had 200 and something carries last year anyway. So he had 205 last year, and he missed the first 4 games of the season. So that number is going to go up, but I can't see it going up by 100. So he had 797 last year on 205 carries. What's the math on that? I mean, just doing it in my head, I can tell you that's less than 4 yards a carry, because 4 times 205 is 8, whatever, right? Probably 820. My guess is, my math is correct in my head. So 205, 797 divided by 205 is 3.88, 3.887. So pretty much 3.89 yards a carry. That needs to go up, right? We need to be up over 4 yards a pop. That's what we're looking for. So in saying that, this 262, let's go ahead and do the math on that. This looks like 4 yards a pop right here. This 262 over the 1,066. 4.068. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for, right? That's what I'm looking for. I would love to see this creep over 11 for B-Rob this year, but this 1066 is fine. If Gibby's doing what he's supposed to do, and he's giving the energy he's supposed to give, and Chris Rodriguez is getting a little work, and he's doing what he's supposed to do, then this 1066 will be more than enough. I think this 262 carries is exactly what he's going to be around when it's all said and done, because again, you're splitting time with Gibby and maybe C-Rod. So I think that's what the number is going to look like. This is the big one here. I think Brian Robinson is capable of 17 touchdowns in a season rushing. Now, that's a big number. Remember, Jamal Williams led the NFL in rush touchdowns last year with 17. So this is a big number. I'm not putting that on B-Rob, but I think he could have 13 or 14. I think he's fully capable. With that physicality, I just think about that Eagles run on Monday night where he wouldn't be denied, where he, drug 2 defenders and then stretched the rock over the goal line. That's the kind of effort I need around the goal line, a dude that just sniffs the end zone. I think he has the nose for that thick white line, and I think I could see him having a big year touchdown-wise. This is the reason I picked Jamal Williams, is because of the backfield that he shared with DeAndre Swift, and that's kind of what we're going to have in Washington. But Jamal Williams is a very similar back, play style wise, to Brian Robinson. I think Brian Robinson's faster than Jamal Williams, but they're very similar in their play style. Physical, runs through arm tackles, no game-breaking speed there, but enough speed that if you fall asleep behind the wheel, he can hurt you. So you're not going to have a ton of these long runs. He 4 20-plus runs, 2 40-plus runs. Let's see what Brian Robinson had. I don't think he had any 40s last year. No 40s, 2 20s. So that's right around what I expect from him. But I told you there's another gear that we didn't see last year with Brian Robinson. I swear to you, there's another gear. You're going to see it this year. But I still think it translates to like these type of numbers. And that long of 58, that sounds about right. Brian Robinson's long last year was probably about 28. Let's go back and check and see. 24. So that sounds about right. I can see Brian Robinson breaking off a 58-yard run. So he had 3 fumbles last year, did Jamal Williams. Robinson had 2. So I like that number to decrease to 1 or none, personally. 2, I can live with it. That's a little dicey. 3 is too much. 3 is too much. Whether you lose them or not, that's too many times you're putting it down on the carpet. Like Gibby didn't fumble at all last year, not one time. That's what you're looking for out of your back, ball security. So we go from the running back position as your bell cow to now your running back position as a receiver. So this is what I'm looking for from Gibby. I got Alvin Kamara's numbers from 2022 here in front of us. And Alvin Kamara, this is his receptions that you're looking at. 57 catches, 490 yards, 2 touchdowns, a long of 54. This is what I'm looking for out of Antonio Gibson this year. In addition to, I want Gibson's rush numbers to be exactly what they were last year. As a matter of fact, Gibson had 149 carries for 546 yards. That number of carries is probably going to decrease because I think the number of carries that Brian Robinson got last year is going to increase. So I think Gibson's number of carries may decrease slightly from 149 to say 133, decrease by like 16 to 20. Okay. But that shouldn't change his yards per carry. Just looking at the math here, he didn't average 4 yards a carry. I don't think he's averaged 4 yards a pop since his rookie season, which is a problem, which is what we need him back to. 546 yards divided by the 149 carries. I can assure you that that's not 4. 3.66. That's gross. That's nasty. So, especially for a third down back, or change of pace back, 3 yards a pop, that's not going to cut it. Just for comparison purposes, DeAndre Swift last year, which is what I think Antonio Gibson is going to be. DeAndre Swift last year, from a rush standpoint, 542 yards, 99 carries. I can tell you right now, that's 4 yards pop. 542 yards, 99 carries. It's 5.47 yards per pop. That's the kind of shit your scat back should be doing. Your third down, change of pace back, not 3.66. That's 3.66 is every down back type numbers. And that's not good. But you can justify it by saying, hey, he had a lot of carries. That's not what Gibson had last year. He shouldn't be in that, category. That's disgusting right there. So we got to change that. We got to change that big time. So I need his numbers from a rush standpoint to be a lot better, but I'm really more so focused on his receiving numbers because I think his rush numbers are going to improve just because of the type of offense that we're running. They're going to be a little bit more selective when they give him the ball, put him in positions to succeed. I truly believe that. I want to see the uptick in receiving for him. This is the part of his game that has to take that quantum leap. As a matter of fact, let's go look at his receiving numbers from last year and kind of compare to what I want them to look like this year. So he caught 46 balls for 353 yards last season, 2 touchdowns, and the long catch was 26 yards. So solid numbers, but as you can see, the numbers that I have on the screen, these are the type of numbers that I think he's capable of. 57 catches, 490 yards. And honestly speaking, with the additional 11 catches, for an additional 137 yards, that's huge, right? Let's see what Kamara is averaging on, because Gibby averaged 7.7 on his grabs last year. So that's the one thing he has improved upon each year. Rookie season, 36 catches, 247, 6.9 yards per catch. 2021, 42 catches, so an increase by 6. 294 yards, so an increase by 47 yards. averaged out to 7 on the dot. So increased by literally a tenth of a yard. That's not a lot, right? But then in 2022, 4 more catches from 42 to 46 and an increase in yardage by 59. So up to 7.7 yards. Let's check and see what Alvin Kamara's numbers. What is it? 57, 490. See what that averages out to. 490, 57. That's 8.59. So pretty much 8.6 yards a catch. That's what I'm looking for from Gibby. Almost every time he catches the ball, we move in the sticks. That's what you're looking for. Now, I would love to see this touchdown number be elevated. 2 touchdowns is what Gibby did last year. That's what Kamara had last year. I'd like to see him touch the end zone a little bit more than that. 3 catches of 20 yards or more. Gibson had 2. He's had no more than 2 in his career in any season. He's got 6 for his career. 2 in each of the 3 seasons he's been in the league. I'd like to see that number elevated to 3 or 4 this year. I don't know if he had any 40s last year. I don't think he had any explosives like that. He did in his rookie season and he did in his second year. I remember, I can tell you that he's got 2 in his career over 40. I can tell you both of them. He had a screen against the Ravens that he got tackled at like the 2 or 3 yard line in his rookie season. And then he had the screen against the Ravens screen was a wide receiver screen. He was out wide, caught it, and got up the field. The screen against Buffalo in his second year is the 75-yarder. So he's capable of that. I want to see more of that from him this year. So I'm putting this Alvin Kamara season on him. This is what I need from Gibby this year. If he's trying to get to the bag, this is the kind of season he's going to have to turn in. So this next one is CeeDee Lamb's numbers from this past season. This was his breakout year with CeeDee Lamb. And this is what I want for Terry this year. This is the next step for Terry. I think that's a lot of catches. Terry's never had more than let's go look and see. I'm a guess Terry's never had more than I think Terry's high was last year, 77. I think he had 77 catches last year. Let's go find him. Let's go track Terry down and see. But I think that's a high for Terry last year. Was the 77 catches that he had. So Terry, for his career, nope, I lied. His second year, he had 87 catches. He had 87 catches for 1,118 yards in 2020. So I'm ready for Terry to take the next step. And if he's not at 100 catches, be hovering around 100. But more importantly, and I love the average. Terry is a career 14 yards a catch dude. And honestly, if not for the 2 middle seasons, bringing that average down, he 15.8 in his rookie season, 15.5 last year. That's what you want. You want to be close to 16 yards a catch. He was heading towards that, but in 2021, 13.7, in 2020, 12.8. And the more catches you have, the more likely it is you're going to have a lower average per catch. But I think this CeeDee Lamb stat line is where I want him to be in 2023. 107, that might be too much. That might be, you're probably biting off a little bit more than you can chew there. I think that number's probably more like 93 in 2023, 93, 94. I'd be really excited about that. But the yardage is what I'm really more fixated on, and the touchdowns. Terry's never eclipsed 10 in his career. 9 would be a good number for him. You know, that's where all the premier receivers are, right in that 9 to 11 range. Hell, even last year, I think it was a down year for a lot of receivers in terms of touchdowns, because Justin Jefferson had 8 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill had 7 touchdowns. Diggs had 11, right? So I told you that window is usually somewhere from 9 to 11. Well, Jefferson 8, Hill 7. See, Devontae Adams had 14. Stephon Diggs had 11. AJ Brown had 11. So, but Jamar Chase had 9. Like, a lot of these dudes aren't hitting double digits. All right. Where's DK Metcalf? He had 6, right? And Geno Smith went stupid last year. He blacked out last year. And DK Metcalf only had 6 touchdowns. So 9 would be a really good number if he could hit that. But it's the 1359 for me that I'm really looking at and saying, all right, Terry, I'm ready for you to take that next step. It's the 1359. Terry's never had more than what he had last year in terms of receiving yards. And last year it was 1191. So he was approaching 1200. I'm ready. I'm trying to skip 12. Go straight to 13. That's what the big boys do. Big boys are up there with 1,300 plus yards receiving. We got a big boy. Terry's a big dog. So if you want to bark with the big dogs, you want to stomp with the big dogs, you got to post numbers like the big dogs. Well, he hasn't had the quarterback like a lot of the big dogs have. That's about to change. So with that expectation comes responsibility. All right. So if he gets that quarterback, now you got the power. With power comes great responsibility, as a wise man once told me. So I'm putting the onus on Terry. If Sam's throwing dimes, I need this to be with CeeDee Lamb post last year. 1359, 9 touchdowns. But see, this is not a great average right here. Let's do the math real quick, which is why I want that same number, but less catches. I don't need 107 catches. I can tell you right now, I haven't even done the math. This is probably somewhere in that 12, might even be 11 neighborhood. That's nasty. You know, I don't want my star receiver averaging 11.8 yards. Let's get the real number. Let's get the exact number here. 1359 divided by 107. I'm going to go with 11.8. 12.7. So it's not as bad as I thought, but I don't want my star receiver under, 13 yards a pop, So Terry is in the 15 range right now. He was 15.5 last year. I want this same number of yards. I want 13 to 15 less catches to do it, though. Let's see. That same 1359 with 92 catches. 1359, 92 catches. That's 14.7. I can live with that. With 9 scores, I can live with that. That's what I'm looking for. Like, CeeDee doesn't have any catches over 40 yards. Again, that's nasty. That ain't what we do over here. That ain't what Terry do. Terry had 6 catches of 40 yards or more last year. See, that's where that average comes into play, right? So just imagine if Terry's got a guy that's throwing them dimes all year long down the field. That number is going to increase exponentially, right? So that's one of the areas where I'm looking at CeeDee's numbers and I'm like, he had a long of 39. That's nasty. That's gross, right? We don't do that in Washington. But I do want that 1359. I want it on less catches, and I do want those 9 touchdowns, though. That would be nice. So, what did I just do? And CD didn't fumble last year. I think Terry fumbled last year. I know he fumbled. No, he didn't fumble last year. He fumbled. It was 2 years ago. He fumbled. I remember the Lions game. That was his rookie. That was 2020. He fumbled. I don't know if he fumbled in 2021 or not. So that's what I'm looking for Terry. Less catches, right around those same amount of yards. Looking at those same touchdowns, I'm cool with 9. CD had 24 catches of 20 yards or more. See what Terry did last year. Terry had 16, so I take that 24 that CD did. That's a good number right there. Let me see what the big boys in the league are doing in terms of 20-yard catches. Jefferson had 28. Tyreek had 25. So, yeah, that 24 CD put up, that's big boy numbers. That's good for third in the league tied with Devontae Adams. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for Terry. And keep that 40-yard. Terry had 6 or 40 or more. If Terry has 8 more catches of 20-plus yards, he's going to obliterate this 1359. Think about it. Let's just say every single one of those catches are 20 yards. 8 times 20 is 160. You add 160 yards. Let's say you just add 8 catches to what Terry did last year and 160 yards. So let's just do that. Let's just play around with that. Terry had a 77 piece last year for 1197, I believe. Let me just double check that. 1191. 77 for 1191. So it'd be 85, 160 plus 1191 is 1351 divided by 85. He'd be at 15.9. So he up his average by 4/10, and the catches will be up by 8, and he'd be up to that 1350 mark that I'm looking for. So, yeah, that's really where he needs to make up the difference. Really, keep the same amount of 40-yarders down the field. He had 6. Increase the 20-yarders from 16 to 24, and that'll make up the difference. That's really where it's at for Terry. Give me those touchdowns. That'll put him at 1351 with 85 catches. That's right where Terry needs to be, honestly. Right where he needs to be. All right, so the next box here that we're going to take a look at, this is for Jahan Dotson. So this is T. Higgins, 2022 season. All right. T. Higgins, 74 catches, 1,029 yards, 7 scores, 14 over 20, 3 over 40. So right away, I'm looking at this, and the first thing that jumps out is the touchdowns. Jahan had 7 in 12 games last year. So I'm looking at this 7, and I'm like, bro, we can get this to double digits with the way Jahan can freak it. So I would like to see Jahan increase this 7 to like 10 or 11. We'll see. Again, with all the weaponry that we have, depending on what the outcome of the season is from a scoring standpoint, you can't ask your running backs to have 50 million touchdowns and expect your receivers to do the same. Like, somebody's not going to be able to, like, Jamar Chase had 9, and he dealt with injuries last year, and Higgins had 7. Let me see how many rushing touchdowns Joe Mixon had or Samaje Perine. They probably both had a good amount of rush touchdowns. Let's just get to the touchdowns and see. Shit, I don't see neither one of them. Joe Burrow had 5. So if Burrow has 5 and okay, Mixon had 7. So let me go to the next one and see how many Samaj P. Ryan had. Shit, he couldn't have had that many. I'm already at 3 and I still don't see him. So he probably wasn't getting as many touches around the goal line as I thought. Felt like he would have touched it a lot more than that. Still looking for Samaj P. Ryan. He had 2 last year. So 2 for Samaj, 5 for Joe Burrow, and 7 for Joe Mixon. So that's 14 rush touchdowns total for them. You're not going to be able to. Let's see how many rush touchdowns Isaiah Pacheco had and Patrick Mahomes. And shit, all of their running backs for that matter. A lot of dudes touched it for them. Let's see. Curious. Pacheco had 5. Mahomes had 4. Those are their 2 leaders. So you're not going to have a whole lot more overall. Let me go to the team stats real quick and just see how many rush touchdowns. The Chiefs had 18. So generally speaking, unless you putting up buku points, which the Eagles did, Cowboys did, Lions did, unless you putting up buku points, you're not going to have a bunch of rushing touchdowns and receiving touchdowns. It's usually one or the others. It's going to come. So the Chiefs had 41 passing touchdowns, only 18 rush touchdowns. Like something's got to give. Unless you splitting it down the middle. And it's some teams that did. The Lions did that. 29 passing touchdowns, 23 rushing. Again, they had the leading rush, touchdown guy in the league in Jamal Williams last year. Cowboys had 28 passing touchdowns, 24 rush touchdowns. So they split the difference, right? That's when you have a CeeDee Lamb with 9 because you're still able to split it up. But if you got that big gap like the Chiefs do or the Bills, 35 passing touchdowns, 15 rush, somebody's not going to eat, So if I'm thinking we're going to have a lot more rush touchdowns this year, that's going to come at the expense of the receiving touchdowns, unless we killing it, right? Unless there's 62 touchdowns to go around. So the increase, we had 9 rush touchdowns last year, okay? So an increase could be up to 19 or 20, okay? That's significant. I said all of that to say, as we go back to T. Higgins and his numbers from last year. The 7 touchdowns that Higgins brought in is equivalent to what Jahan did in 5 less games. And I don't know if T. Higgins missed any games last year or not. But if Jahan can do 7 in 12 games, I think we can get to 10 in 17 if he can play 17 games. So, but really what I'm focusing in on are the catches in the yards. Let's see what the average is here. And then I'm gonna go to Jahan's numbers from last year and see what that average was. So this is 14 yards a catch. Jahan's better than that, I feel like. But I would be cool with Jahan having 67 catches for this same amount of yards. Let's see what that looks like. I don't need 74 catches for that amount of yards because I don't think Jahan's going to have 11 or 12 this year. The next step for him is just eclipse a G, right? That's what T. Higgins did last year. I could do this same amount of work. I think Jahan's capable of doing this same amount of work in 13 less catches. 61 grabs. Let me go to 61 for the same 10-29 and see what that looks like. That's 17 a pop. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking for. And I think he's capable. Speaking of which, let's go to see what Jahan did in the limited work that he was able to do last year. Let's see what he was able to compile. He had 7 touchdowns, so I can just get to that quicker. 35 and 523. Let's see what that looks like. 523, 35 grabs. So that's 15 a pop. All right. Let's see how many 20s and 40s he had last year, if any. So he had 10 20s and 2 40s last year. His long was 61. That was the Giants catch, was the 61-yarder. I think he's capable. If we double what he did last year, and I don't think that's fair because 5 games isn't double worthy, but I just expect him to play faster, to be better this year because he's in his second year and he's more confident and he knows what to expect. You double what he did last year, though, and you got 70 grabs for 10, what was it, 523, 1046. So 1046 should equal out to the same thing. I'm just doubling it, but yeah, it's going to equal out to the same thing. But if you double his numbers, that's right around where T. Higgins is. T. Higgins is what? 74 for what was it? 1,029? Yeah. And that's 70 for 1046. So I think Jahan is capable of doing that. That's a big leap, though. Doubling his numbers from 35 to 70. I think 62, 64 is a good number for him. Anyway, I'm more so like the catches is cool, but I think it's going to be a little bit less than that. I think it's going to be in the 60s, not the 70s. But I think the yards are really accurate. I think the touchdowns could go up a little bit more. Jahan had 10 of 20. T. Higgins had 14. I think 16 is a good number for Jahan. T had 3 of 40. I think we said Jahan had 2. Was that the number? 2. Yeah, 2 for 40. So 3 or 4 would be good for him. Terry had 6, so I'd like to see that number increase to 4 or 5 for Jahan. But anything north of the 2 he had last year, I'll settle on. I don't have an issue with that. I don't think Jahan put it on the ground last year. He didn't. So keep it that way. So I'm looking at T. Higgins' numbers from last year, and I'm saying Jahan can be in that neighborhood. Less catches, same amount of yards, probably a little bit more touchdowns, similar 20-yard catches, similar 40-yard catches. This is what I'm looking for from my number 2 receiver. And then finally, this is the tight end position that I'm looking for. And so Dawson Knox, this is his 2022 numbers. I don't give a shit what tight end does this. I just need one of our tight ends to do this right here. 48 catches, 507. I'm not looking for nothing else. This exact spread is what I'm looking for one of our tight ends. I don't care who it is. I don't want 2 guys to equal this. I want one guy to do this right here. All right. One guy to give us that production right there. 48 catches, 517 yards, 6 touchdowns, 8 catches of 20 yards or more, 1 catch of 40. I don't even know if we got a dude that can do that. Maybe Cole Turner can do the 40. But just, you know what? I'm curious to see what Logan's 2020 season looked like. I know he had more catches and more yards, but the average was probably lower in 2020. Let's see. Logan Thomas had 72 catches for 670 yards. So let's do some math real quick. 48, 517 for 48 is 10.7. Logan, I can look at his numbers and tell you that he doesn't have 10 yards a catch because he got 72 over 670. 72 times 10 is 720. He doesn't have 710, 20 yards. So right then and there, I can tell you the average ain't where I want it to be, but he was a chain mover in 2020. He had 6 touchdowns. That's the number that Dawson Knox had. He had 5 catches of 20 yards or more, none of 40, which is not what Logan does. But he had 5 of 20. What did Dawson have? 8. I want this right here. I don't want nothing else. Just give me this. I don't give a shit which tight end does it. Just give me this right here. 48, 517, 6 touchdowns, 8 catches of 20 yards or more. If I get a 40, cool. If I don't, I ain't sweating it. I'm not tripping. All right. Over 10 yards a catch. That's what I'm looking for right there. That's what I want from one of our tight ends. So, those are the numbers. Those are the numbers, guys. That's what I'm looking for out of our guys this upcoming season. And I think it's doable, personally. I think it's doable. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. Start the night off. I thought we did this earlier today. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but stand up, Abel Ambrosio. Welcome to the MOBB mob. Y'all know what to do. Newest member of the MOBB, Abel Ambrosio, is here. Let him feel you, man. Show him some love. All right. Abel Ambrosio, welcome to the squad. So glad to have you back where you belong. Jay Willard, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Louie, blessings to you and yours. Likewise, Jay. Wanted to know your opinion on wide receiver 5 and 6 and which could be the best option for return duties. Honestly, we know 4 of our receivers right now. We know Terry, Jahan, Curtis, Diami. That's not changing. All right. So the question is, are they keeping 6? I think they kept 6 last year. Or are they keeping 5? They're not keeping 7. There's no reason to keep 7. I don't think they did that last year. I could be wrong, but I think the number was 6 last year. Kept those same 4 last year, Cam Sims and Dax Milne, if I'm not mistaken. So I think the number was 6 last year. I could be forgetting someone, but I think those were the 6 guys. And then I know Kierick McGowan was a guy that they would pull up on game days for special teams purposes. But in terms of the 53-man roster, I think the number's 6. So this year, you're going to have to replace Cam Sims. Right now, Marcus Kemp is that guy that we're kind of circling and penciling in. We'll see about all the undrafted guys. We've talked about them. We'll see what the preseason brings, what training camp brings. If anybody stands out enough to push Marcus Kemp, he's a core special teamer. And so right now he has that 5th spot, I think, locked up. But nothing's etched in stone. So I'm not going to, only 4 guys have locked spots at receiver. Kemp, I think, has the inside track to number 5. And then I think that 6th spot is going to be reserved for a guy that can return kicks. So whether that's Dax Milne again, much to the chagrin of us fans, or is it, Kaz Allen? We'll see. The assumption is Kaz Allen and Dax Milne are battling for 1 spot. That's the assumption. But both of them can make the team, and Marcus Kemp could not make it at all and just be on the practice squad. That's possible too. Like, don't count Dax Milne, the receiver, out. I keep, making sure that you guys understand. If he can stand on his own too, based off of his ability to win as a receiver, that should get him on the roster. I think a lot of people have just looked at him as he's this special team. He was never supposed to be in that special teams role. You would view him totally different if it was just Dax Milne, the receiver, and he never, ever stepped foot on special teams. You would view him from a different prism. But because he was a special teamer last year and not very good at it, you're looking at him now as a guy that doesn't hold his weight as a special teamer, so he can't be on the roster. And that's not what he was ever supposed to be. So if he's able to still do the receiver thing, and I think he's fully capable of doing the receiver thing, don't discount him as a guy that can make the football team. But again, we'll see what happens. Because we got enough dudes that can play gunner. We got enough of these young corners and safeties that we should have enough guys that they shouldn't be keeping Marcus Kemp strictly off of that. Like, he can be on the practice squad and they can pull him up on game day if they need to, if that's how they feel. But he doesn't have to make the team based off of that. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens. Kaz Allen right now seems to be the best option, really seems to be the only option on the team that can return kicks at any level. So that's going to be something that we watch in the preseason, definitely. Rob Yu, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Rob Yu. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes. Lou, Rob, says the Reign of Terror series is legit, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So many tough memories. You're not lying. Right? There are so many. And it's crazy when you start to relive them and they all come rushing back and flooding back. They hit you like a ton of bricks, man. And some are good, some are not so good. But it's good to go down memory lane. I really liked Patrick Ramsey, but he didn't stand a chance here. I agree, And Patrick had his shit with him too. But all in all, I'm going to save it for the next episode because I want to talk about it. But I liken him to another quarterback that I thought actually had some talent, and they were very similar actually, and never stood a chance because of his situation. And I'll talk about that on the show tomorrow. John Perez, my guy JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy JP writes, first off, just want to say love the Reign of Terror series. Secondly, I've long said that the old man Ron needs to make the playoffs to save his job. First off, thank you, JP. Greatly appreciate the sentiment. And I do believe he has to make the playoffs. I don't think that's optional at this point. I don't think 10 wins and missing the playoffs is good enough. Whatever the number is, he has to hit that number and make the playoffs in order to save his job. 10-7 and missing the playoffs, I think, is still grounds for him to be terminated. So this is what we do have to keep in mind. There is one more year left on the contract. Some owners, aren't a huge fan of paying guys money that, they're not earning. So, if you go 10-7, miss the playoffs, and you got 1 year left on your deal, do you have to do anything? No, technically you don't. It's not like he's got 4 years or 3 years left on his contract, or even 2. But I surmise, and this is the thing, this isn't Josh Harris's first rodeo. It'll be his first opportunity to own an NFL franchise, but because he's been an owner of other franchises and other sports, he has a philosophy. He knows what he wants. He knows how he wants to run and conduct business. So I think he'll come in and fire him if he doesn't make the playoffs, personally. Just looking at his track record, what he's done with other teams, what he's done with other coaches. This situation isn't what the 76ers are. The 76ers are in championship mode. Like, they want to win a championship now, and he didn't feel like Doc Rivers could deliver that for him. So he got rid of him. But that's not where the Washington Commanders are as an organization, but doesn't mean he won't hold them to the same standard, right? So he got to make the playoffs. That's pretty much how I view it. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I've been burned way too many times by this team to make any grand declarations. I'm optimistic, but I'm keeping my mouth shut. Go out and show me. That's a great approach to have. I can't even be upset at you for feeling that way. The scars run deep, man. Again, we are a battered and bruised franchise, or fan base rather, and thus we've seen it too many times. My guy Derek B always likens our situation to Lucy pulling the football out from Charlie Brown. Every time we think we're about to kick it, we run up, we go flying in the air and fall flat on our back. That's pretty much what they've done to us for the last better part of 2 decades. So yeah, I get it. I'm optimistic, but I'm not backing down. If I feel a way, I'm going to say it. And if I have egg on my face at the end of the season, so be it. But, if there was ever an opportunity for Ron, and I've already made my declaration. I've already told you guys what I think is going to happen, not only this year, but next year. I've already told you guys. So what I think is going to happen. I feel confident, and it really stems from, one, the quarterback, but two, the roster that they've built. This is actually a quality football team. Quality football team. So now it's about coaching, something we've lacked for far too long here in Washington. Coaching. Rest of the division is ahead of us. Even Dallas's sorry ass. I truly believe without Dan Quinn, Dallas would be ass. But Quinn really fortifies that coaching staff and gives them real chops. The Eagles have proven that they're really good at their job now. They lost both of their coordinators. I wanted them to keep one of their coordinators, but we'll see if there's any loss there, if they just pick right up where they left off. And it may be addition by subtraction defensively, honestly. We'll see. And we saw what the Giants were able to do. I mean, they had table scraps last year, and they made a 5-course meal, right? That shit was 5-star. Still don't know how they managed to do what they did last year. So we got to catch up in the coaching department. And with all the changes that were made, we're hoping that we close that gap. Because I think the talent discrepancy isn't as great as people think. I think everybody looks at the talent in this division and says, okay, the Eagles are light years ahead of Washington. The Cowboys are, somewhere behind the Eagles. Maybe, depending on who you speak to, they're right behind the Eagles, or there's a considerable distance between the two of them. And then, I feel like we're third, but the Giants are like, hey, we made changes in the offseason. You ain't in front of us, So I think that the talent level for Washington has increased, and it puts us in a position that if the coaching gap is closed, we'll have a chance to compete at a high level in this division. So I don't blame you for feeling the way that you feel. JP, my guy John Perez, double up, thank you for doubling up, right? I've got a spicy hot take, Lou. Ready? I'm always ready. For this one, the Commanders will be in the NFC title game within a 2 to 3 year span. Oh, that's not that spicy, JP, because I kind of already said something like that. Now, yours is a bit spicier from this perspective. I didn't make a declaration like NFC championship game or anything like that, but I kind of said something that might be perceived as even crazier than that, spicier than that. I said on a previous show, and I want to say it was probably like a month ago on one of these Command Post live streams, that Ron is going to save his job this year, which means we're going to make the playoffs. And then next year is the run. He's going to have a 2015 Carolina Panthers-esque run next year. That's what I said. So when I think that was the show that I had the spicy hot takes. And there isn't a take spicier or hotter than that, right? So I think we're kind of close there. You said the next 2 or 3 years. I'm talking next year. So I think mine's a bit spicier than yours, but we'll see. Christopher McLaughlin. I like where your head is, though, JP. Christopher McLaughlin. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Let me say this before we get to Chris's comment. If Ron gets fired, that timeline may change, right? You bring in all these new people. We got to, kind of there's this acclimation period. The timeline may change. Or it could be sped up. You got the pieces. You just needed the coaching staff. So who knows? We'll see. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Chris writes, "Hey Lou, hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise, Chris. Likewise." Says, heading on vacation, man. Enjoy. That 8-letter word is one of my favorite in the dictionary. All right. Enjoy that, man. Best case, win 10 or 11 games, make the playoffs, and win a playoff game. Worst case, 5-6 win season, injuries and poor execution lead to firing coach and GM. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, and I think the 5-6 is low, because even in Ron's worst seasons in Carolina, the one he got fired and he was 5-9. If they would have given him the final 2 games of the season, he probably would have won 1 or 2 more. So we've been a 7-win team with way less talent, and the schedule was brutal 2 years ago in 2021, and we still won 7 games that year. Dealt with COVID and all kinds of bullshit, and we were 6-6. And so I don't think that. I mean, we played the Chiefs that year, the Buccaneers, the Packers. Like, we played all the top quarterbacks that year. Buffalo and Josh Allen. Like, we went through murderer's row. We've gone through this exercise, but I don't know if a team in NFL history has played that many top-tier quarterbacks in one season. We played Justin Herbert. We played Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Derek Carr, Matt Ryan. Like, even the second-tier quarterbacks, we got all of them too, right? Matthew Stafford. Like, we couldn't run or hide that 2021 season. We got all of them. So, did we play the Rams in 21? I think we played the Rams in 20, not 2021. Anyway, yeah, it's not going to be that way this year. We don't play that many elite quarterbacks. It's just better than last year. So, I can't see us winning any less than 7 games. I think that's the floor for the season. But to your point, anything less than 10 wins is probably not going to get you in the playoffs, which is a failure, which means everyone's fired, yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. Enjoy the vacay, man. Enjoy the vacay. Come back refreshed. Rob, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Rob, who writes, this thing hinges on how well Sam plays. It's a lot to ask of a young player, but he has weapons. I'm praying the O-line holds up. It is a lot to ask of a young quarterback, but Sam's ready. This is what he's built to do. He did it at North Carolina. He's got the mindset. I love his mentality, man. He is one of these players that he just gets it. So, again, I liken him to Jalen Hurts in terms of his mental approach. Like, he's wired differently. And so for so long, we've had guys, other than Kirk Cousins, we've had a lot of guys here that weren't wired in the way that you need them to be in terms of being a high-level quarterback. And Robert Griffin III and Dwayne Haskins, and these are the types of quarterbacks that we've had here in Washington. Carson Wentz, not to say that Wentz didn't put in the time or whatever, but those guys weren't wired a certain way, and the best quarterbacks are wired a certain way. And I think Sam is wired in that way. So I don't think this moment is going to be too big for him. I don't think he's going to flinch or blink or any of that. Lights are bright, stage is big, and I'm thinking he's going to rise to the occasion. So offensive line definitely needs to hold up their end of the bargain. That's going to be a huge part of this discussion. Obviously, if they don't play up to par, it's going to affect Sam. Whether he has wheels or not, doesn't matter. You can't constantly be under duress and expect a quarterback to perform at the level he's capable of performing at. So they're going to have to hold up their end of the bargain. EB is going to have to do his part. If the line isn't great, EB can circumvent some of that with the quick pass game, right? There are ways to take some of the pressure off of your offensive line if they're not great. Scott Turner seemed to not understand that concept, and he did a lot of short passing game, but it wasn't the right kind of short passes, So I think Sam's going to do his part. A lot does hinge on him, though, for sure. LT, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. LT writes, why do you find yourself always comparing to Philly? Philly's one of the best teams in football. Philly is in our division. I'm not always comparing us to Philly, but there are aspects of their team that are dynamic that I would love to mimic. Absolutely. Their defensive line almost set the sack record. That's what we're after, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith made one hell of a tandem last year. That's what we're looking to form in Washington. Jalen Hurts had a damn near MVP season. That's what we're looking to emulate. The Eagles went to the Super Bowl. We're not looking to get to the Super Bowl. We're looking to win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, there's a lot of qualities that are very redeeming in Philadelphia right now. So, I mean, you pretty much answered the question by asking the question. Like, the Eagles were 14-3 last year. Why wouldn't we want to do a lot of the things that they've done? So we want to win a bunch of ball games. We want to advance far in the playoffs. We want our young players to develop at a high rate. Yeah, I'd say most teams in the league want to do that. And if it's not Philadelphia, if it's Kansas City, if it's not Kansas City, it's Buffalo. I don't give a shit who it is. I want whatever they're doing, that's what I want to do. Whatever the winners are doing, that's what I want to do. Eagles won big 1 year. So I'm not necessarily looking to duplicate what they did. I'm looking to do what the winners that do it year in and year out are doing. Kansas City and Buffalo and Cincinnati, those are the teams I'm looking to emulate. The teams that are constantly winning every single year. And if Philly's going to find themselves in that conversation, then yeah, I want to be like them too. John Perez, my guy JP, writes, I've said since the sale was announced that I strongly believe we're a playoff team in 2023. I'm planting my flag on that prediction. NFC is wide open. I mean, I've been singing that song for 2 years now. NFC is wide open. And I think last year proved that. I think last year proved that the NFC is wide as open. I mean, even though Philadelphia was dominant last year and into the playoffs, the fact that the Giants advanced to the divisional round, the fact that, you know, the 49ers got there with a rookie quarterback, it speaks volumes, right? There's no dominant teams in the NFC right now other than, again, Philadelphia has to do it again before I call them dominant. They were dominant last year, but, you know, the Packers had a run. Packers were winning 14 games every year. You know, they were the number one seed every year, it felt like. 49ers have had a nice little run here. They missed out in 2020 with Bosa going down with an injury, and they had injuries to the quarterback position and this, that, and the third. But 19, they were in the Super Bowl. 21, they were in the NFC Championship game. 22, they were in the NFC Championship game. So the 49ers have been on a run. The Packers had a little bit of a run. And so those teams are, you know, specifically San Francisco, still around, but they made wholesale changes, right? So we're going to find out if those changes, not wholesale, that may be a bit aggressive. We don't know what their quarterback situation is. That goes a long way in determining the outcome of your season. So, you know, Green Bay obviously is going to take a massive step back. They didn't make the playoffs last year anyway, but they're going to take a step back, we assume. We'll see what Jordan Love does. Maybe they take a step back up. But if Philadelphia is the best that the conference has to offer, I'm not afraid. Right? We went into their building and beat them. And that's a family member. You should never be afraid of a family member, right? You know, it would be one thing if it was Tampa Bay or if it was New Orleans, some team that you don't see all the time. I'm very familiar with Philadelphia, Dallas, the Giants. Not afraid of any of them. So you look around the conference, we don't have any of the young quarterbacks like the AFC does. You know, if Jalen Hurts is the best that the conference has to offer at quarterback, I'd say the conference is pretty wide open. Now, that could change in 1 year. Jordan Love could step up. Brock Purdy or Trey Lance could step up. Justin Fields could step up this year. Sam Howell could step up. Desmond Ridder could step up. Bryce Young could step up. And quickly, just like that, shit could flip in the NFC, and you can say, damn, it's a lot of young gunners over here, just like in the AFC. But right now, it's just Jalen Hurts as the young quarterback that stepped up, right? That's it. There aren't any other ones. Geno Smith isn't young. Derek Carr isn't young. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback in Tampa, but neither one of them look all that great anyway, right? Like, Kirk Cousins isn't a spring chicken in Minnesota. Jared Goff is, he's all right, but he's not real. Like, Stafford, I guess, is the other, veteran, but he's a veteran. I think he's about to retire here shortly. I didn't realize it. He's 15 years in. So, yeah, shit could change just like that, or it could remain the same. So we'll see what happens. Bear it down, and my guy BD, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, love your reign of terror segments. I'm just checking in, LOL. Hey, I appreciate that. Appreciate the support, man. I really, truly do, from all of you who have, given me the praise for the series. I'll say that it's critically acclaimed, which usually means it's not getting the attention that it deserves, but the people that are watching it are like, yo, this is fire. And that's pretty much what I've gathered from you guys. So I appreciate that. Appreciate you as always, Barrett Downing. Marcus B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Marcus B writes, Lou, you think Payne is better than Allen? I think anybody that saw Payne the very first time he showed up said that his ceiling is higher than that of Jonathan Allen's. We all acknowledge that when he was drafted. I just didn't feel like he was the best choice. And I've said this a million times because everyone loves to bring up, and I'm not ashamed of it, and I don't back down because nothing has changed for me. In that moment, he was not what I thought we needed. We had drafted a defensive tackle the year before. I didn't think we needed to double down and draft another one. I thought there were other players at other positions that could have helped this team in that particular draft at that moment. And that's what I wanted the team to do. They didn't do that. That said, he was a better talent than Allen. Allen had already established himself at Alabama as a pass rusher. That was the biggest difference, which is why I was more excited about the Allen pick than the Payne pick, because Payne wasn't getting after the quarterback at Alabama. But anybody that watched Payne at Alabama or even early in his Washington career said, this dude's a super athlete. He's got the potential, but he's got to put it all together. And so he's doing that now. I think he is the superior of the two. Now, most people that I've listened to say that the prevailing thought has always been they would love to take Payne's athleticism and skill set and add Jonathan Allen's mentality, and that would give you an Aaron Donald type of player. Now Aaron Donald's a rare breed, and that's not what Daron Payne is as an athlete, but you get where I'm going with that. You would be in the upper echelon of defensive players in the league if you could put those two things together. So that always made me wonder, does Daron lack that drive? I don't think he does, frankly. And after seeing him last year do what he did, and I don't think that was he was looking to get paid breakout thing. I think he is finally putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And one thing I know about Daron is he loves playing ball. So, yeah, I do think he's better than Jonathan Allen. I do. Because Jonathan Allen may always be a 9.5 sack guy. That might just be what he is. You know, I keep waiting for Jonathan Allen to have that 11, 12 sacks. He might just be a 9.5 sack guy, and that's perfectly fine, especially from the defensive tackle position. However, Payne has shown that he can break through that glass ceiling. He's already done it. It's shattered. He went 11.5 last year. So who's to stop him from getting 13.5 this year? You know, what's stopping him from doing that? We'll see. I still need to see Allen do it. I just think Payne is better in the run. Like he's got a similar quickness, but he's a bigger body, more effective, I think, in the run game than Allen is. And I think he has a better skill set in terms of getting to the quarterback than Allen does. But Allen's unique in the sense that he's undersized and he uses that quickness. He's a beast in that regard, right? So they're both really good, man. But I do think Payne is slightly better. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy, Chris. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Chris writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Do you see the enemy incorporating a deep passing attack to use Diami, Jahan, and even Terry to help keep a defense honest and provide more versatility to an offense that struggled with scoring points? Absolutely. And, you know, the way that you do that is twofold. You can run the ball, or you can kill them with the short passing game, which will force them to come up to try to take it away. And the minute that they do, you hit them over the top. And that's, you know, part of setting things up. And, you know, I think what you're going to ultimately see from Washington is the run game, is the quick passing game, maybe be an extension of the run game. And then right when you lull them to sleep, you go over the top. So I definitely think that we're going to see our fair share of shots over the top, for sure. You got the quarterback with the arm that's capable of doing it. And I do see them taking advantage of the speed that we have at the wide receiver position, and hoping to get those explosives to help us put more points on the scoreboard. You know, that's been one of the Achilles heel of this team is the inability to create enough explosives to generate more scoring opportunities. We work so hard for everything, nickel and dime, and then you find yourself in that vortex from 40 to 40 and drive stall out. So if you can hit some big plays, it'll put you in a position to score. Whether the drive breaks down or not, you're already in field goal range. So, yeah, I do think he's going to incorporate some deep shots to those guys that can stretch the football field vertically. For sure. Gear Cell 1, it feels like it's been a little while, man. What's going on with you? Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Gear Cell 1 writes, Lou, what's up from Lefty Nation? You know what it is, man. You know what it is. Left-handers, stand up. Always in the building. Just saw EB at Sears. Not at Sears, bro. Not in Sears and Roebuck. Stop. All right. Wearing a denim sweatsuit with Anita Baker on the butt. Tragic. Hey, not at Sears, man. That's the part that did it for me. Sears. Marcus B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Lou, what part of Nova you from? I thought you was from the 757. I'm from Norfolk. So I am from the 757. Born and raised Norfolk. Family's from the Virgin Islands, but unfortunately, I didn't get any part of that. You know, I did go there when I was a kid quite often, but born and raised in Norfolk, man. So, yeah, 757, 2 up, 2 down, all day, every day. Rob you, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Rob you writes, I see Jahan as wide receiver 1A. He is a legit playmaker. I can see a big season out of him as long as he stays healthy. I think most of us project that. I don't want to set the bar too high and him fall short and people be disappointed. Too often, people just assume because a guy is talented that he's going to do this or he's going to do that. And sometimes there's just a process that you have to go through. If Jahan were here and there was no Terry, then he may be able to skip steps. But there's a lot of things at work here, a lot of forces at work that I think prevent him from just jumping into 1,200 yards in 2023. You know what I'm saying? Like, the man had 523 yards last year receiving, or 35 or whatever it was. I can't see him taking that number. He only missed 5. Let's not act like Jahan missed 9 games last year. He missed 5 games. That's a lot. We still played in 12 games, right? And maybe that first game back against Philadelphia on that Monday night, you know, you got to get his feet back wet. And so you could almost say like that was almost like another missed game. I think he only had 1 catch in that game. But understand that there's Terry, there's Curtis, there's Brian Robinson, there's Anton. Like, there are other guys that have to be fed as well. It's a new offense, first-year starter at quarterback. Again, there are a lot of forces that I think will minimize the amount of opportunities that he'll have. So, with that said, I don't expect that number to be this grandiose 81 catches for 1,400. Like, I don't see that happening. Baby steps. You know, the next step for him is stay healthy, Get to over 55 catches. You were at 35 last year. Get to over 55. Get that average up, a nice healthy average. So if the number of catches, I think I set it at 61, and you're at 1,024 yards, that is a fan-effing-tastic season in year 2 for Jahan Dotson. Because more likely than not, that means you got 2,000-yard receivers. And as we all know, haven't done that since 16 with Pierre and Deshaun. So it'd be damn nice to have a duo. Like, we think our receiving core is legit. A real receiving core that's legit. Like, if we're talking about top tier, upper echelon, starts with a duo that's over a G. And then you go from there. And then you start filling in the rest of the pieces. We don't have that yet. We think we have that because we feel like Jahan's fully capable. Well, go and show us. So Terry's going to get a G. If Terry's healthy, Terry's getting a G. We don't worry about that anymore. That's a given. Does he have a road dog? Does he have a tag team partner? We'll find out. I think we do. But we'll see. Rob Yu, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Rob Yu, writes, how do you think Sadiq Charles will perform at left guard? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's talked about transforming his body, strengthening his body, eating with a better diet. Like, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He was always a good athlete, fully capable. I think guard is a better position for him than tackle ever was. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's going to lock down the left guard spot and play well. But I would not be shocked if at some point, they got to tap him on his shoulder and say, hey, come on, man. Come on. Nope. Come on. And insert somebody else in there. But I think he's fully capable. And, that'll be one of the big battles that we'll be watching come camp time. But I think he's going to lock up the left guard spot when it's all said and done. Donald Gray, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Donald Gray writes, Lou, what's up, Donald? A change gonna come. Let Sam cook. Shout out to the LTN. Blessings. Thanks, Lou. You know what it is, man. I love it. I think I said that like 3 weeks ago or something like that. I kind of fell into that one. But yeah, change gonna come. Let Sam cook. You know what it is. You know what it is, man. He gonna cook, man. I'm talking about he gonna fillet some teams this year. I'm talking about the heat is gonna be hot and flaming, like hibachi, hot. It's gonna be some weeks where you like, Sam was rough today. It was rough for him today, but I think it's gonna be more of those weeks where Sam is out there killing them than it is those type of weeks. Smitty Fresh, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Smitty Fresh. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. As always, Red Wings 01 writes, I don't know if you read my comment after the podcast, but it basically clears up the mix-up from my story because I I'll admit it was kind of all over the place. I didn't read it, but I think it was two different stories. You know, one was which we started with you taking edibles, which your brother slipped you one. I think so. I could be mixing the two stories up. I could be mashing them together, but I thought we separated them. So did you take it's hard. Like the edible is easy because it looks like candy. Shrooms, not so much. So I don't think he slipped you those. I think he slipped you the Eddie in front of your mom and dad, and you was tripping. The shrooms was different. That's what had you thinking crazy. That was a totally different scenario. I thought we already had established that, but I could be wrong, and I could be mashing those two stories together still. But yeah, I thought we had already established that the shrooms is what had you talking crazy, and you was in your head, and you was like, "Yo, what the hell's going on?" Yeah, that's why me and Miss Perry were like, "Yo, hard pass on that." We were all over the place earlier, though. It wasn't just you. We were all over the place, bro. You weren't the only one. All right. Humble King, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Humble King writes, PSA, y'all heard it. Y'all know what it is. Public service announcement. Hit the like button. Doesn't cost you anything. Totally free. But it does help this channel exponentially. Did you see what I just did there? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But shout out to Humble King, man. Thank you for the PSA. Y'all heard the man. Hit the super chat. Hit the like button. Thank you in advance. To those of you who have already done it, greatly appreciate you. To those of you who haven't, I'm assuming you will. I'm thanking you in advance. Shout out to Humble King. Johnny Boy 26. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Johnny Boy 26. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB writes. What's your all-time 53-man team, all teams and players? That's a whole type of show, segment type thing. That's not something you do right now, but 53-man roster, like I'd have to sit down and map something out. Like I can't just do that off the top of my dome. But I mean, that would actually be a pretty interesting conversation to have. And the perfect time to do it would be this time of the year where there's absolutely nothing going on. We'll have to save that for another time. And being that we're getting close, the next time we speak, it'll be July. I'd assume that we probably would do it next year sometime. But that's actually not a bad topic to explore. Like, I'm assuming you're talking about Washington players only, or are you talking about all NFL? Obviously, that changes the discussion drastically. Never mind. Reading is fundamental. It says all teams, all players. So you're talking about the entire NFL. That opens the floor up to a lot more players. So you're essentially asking me, and I don't think you like a 53-man roster is a bit much. I think you're looking for like an all-pro list. Like, give me your best 11 on both sides of the ball, right? That's more along the lines of what you're at. Like, 53-man roster is a bit much, but yeah, your best 11 on both sides. It's pretty damn tough to do. Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Joe Rockhead writes, Louie, Joe, was good. Just popping in to say great job. Much love, man. I appreciate you as always, Joe Rockhead. You know what it is, man. I really do appreciate you as always. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, nah, the story where I was tripping was from my most recent edible trip. I have taken shrooms before, but I can't even begin to describe that experience, that Alice in Wonderland-ish. Okay, so you had an out of body with edibles? This is news to me. Like, again, like we talked about earlier, edibles affects everyone differently. So, and depending on what you had, it could definitely be some serious shit. But the story you told earlier, I just assumed those were from shrooms. Edibles? What? Wow. Okay. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, the one with my brother was actually pretty pleasant. Right. That's what I thought we were talking about. He said, but the one where I was tweaking happened because it was after he passed, so I can't do them anymore. Oh, okay. So they hit a little different, and you had a lot of different emotions going through you, and so yeah, your body chemistry was a little bit different then. And then you got to be careful too, right? Because now you're in a whole different head state, and you don't want to start depending on things, right? Because if that helps you cope with the situation, now you become dependent and it leads to other things. So you definitely have to be careful with that kind of stuff. Because, my sister used to work at a methadone clinic. And so I'm really hypersensitive to, addiction and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's a good call. You probably want to stay away from that stuff. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Mr. Ron B, OG, triple OG, writes, Lou, if YouTube ever handed out awards for series like Reign of Terror, you'd be walking away with some hardware, brother. I appreciate that, man. I've again, those of you who are watching it have been super supportive. I mean, normally when the numbers don't match the amount of time and energy spent, it's very discouraging. I've done this long enough, and I'm a bottom line guy. When the numbers don't make sense, then the content doesn't make sense. But in this particular case, it's something that I want to do. It's something that I've been meaning to do. And the reception that I've gotten from those of you who are watching is more than enough to make me want to continue to do it. So I truly do appreciate all of you who have been supporting ROT, which is what I've shortened it to. But the Reign of Terror is legit. It's a fan base. We've gone through it. And the only way to really move forward is to acknowledge the past and not be doomed to repeat it, So it's a lot of scars, man. We're going to get to the Gibbs 2.0. There's some scars in that 2.0, right? Obviously, Sean Taylor's death is the one that you're thinking about, but, Gibbs pretty much giving up on himself after the 05 season and bringing in all of the different coaches that he brought in. Like, that's a scar too, right? That shit didn't have to happen. It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack there. And then him leaving 1 year earlier than he needed to. He had a 5-year contract. He left after year 4. But it was a lot, though, man. I mean, Sean dying in 2007 pretty much is like, I can't do this shit. I'm emotionally spent, So, anyway, 2012 that's going to be a hell of a ride, right? Like, the Zorn years, are you kidding me? Like, there's a lot of scars, man. We'll get to all of them, but it's going to be a fun ride. I appreciate the support, though. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Red Wings, right. It's not something I did on a regular anyway. I can count the number of times I did it on the fingers of one hand, but yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I like I said, I just tried it for the first time not too long ago. I've done it twice. So, but in those 2 patches, I've done it multiple times, right? So that's the difference is when you say I can count on my hands, like you might actually be talking about how many times you've taken an edible. Maybe you aren't. Maybe you're in the same boat as I am. I'm talking about I got like a weekend stretch where I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like the first time that I did it, I think I may have taken 5 or 6 that weekend. Something like that. I think the number was 5. Because my wife it was a 10-pack. I took 5 and she took 4 and there was 1 left. And then the last time I just took 3. I took 1 that first night and that's all I needed. It was perfect. And then the second day I did it, the first one did nothing. I took another one. The second one, I was straight. So I've had 2 different pockets. But kids, don't do drugs. Okay, I just have to make sure I say that. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Wings 01 writes, to me, Curtis is the Robin to Terry's Batman and Jahan is Nightwing. Okay. Not the main star, but he's not a sidekick either. And that's what we're trying to get to, right? We're trying to turn this shit into the Avengers. Like we don't want any sidekicks around here. If we can have it that way, you can be Iron Man, you can be that person. Like we trying to turn this shit into the Avengers. You can be Black Panther if you want, right? That's what we're trying to do. But we got to get there first. We can't skip steps. So on one hand, yeah, it'd be nice if you were Captain America, you were Iron Man, but we got to get to a point where that's what we're doing, we're not there yet. So I think by year 3, if Jahan's year 2 is what I think it can be, by year 3, we can be having a real legitimate conversation about that, which is what you want. You want to be having that conversation right around year 3. That's what the Bengals are doing. Jamar Chase is going into year 3. T. Higgins is going into year 4, if I'm not mistaken. And they're trying to figure out where we're gonna get all this money from. Because we got to keep all of them. That's a great place to be. That's where we want to be. And I think we can get there. And I think we will get there. But I'm with you. I see Jahan as more than a sidekick, but he has to prove it. I know what the talent suggests. I just got to see it now. Phil Ricards. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, are you attending Camp Lou? Sorry for your loss, Red Wing 01. Love your content, Lou. Keep smiling. Could be a great season. I thought about whether I was attending, camp or not. I literally sat and thought about it yesterday. It's something that I think I want to do, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do or not yet. It's just we got a lot of stuff going on. I want to come out there, and I think ultimately I will, but I don't know when I'm gonna be able to lock down a day. So I got to kind of figure out, with my wife's schedule, with the kids, all of that stuff, what's a good time to go out there. But I think I do want to go out there at some point. If I do, I'll let y'all know I'm coming out there for sure. But you know me, I'll be like, yeah, I think I'm coming out there, and I don't go nowhere. So we'll see what happens. Eventually, like I told you, eventually I'm gonna get out of the house. But I sat and thought about it yesterday, long and hard. Like, man, I think I want to go to camp this year. I haven't been to camp in like 3 years. I think I want to go this year, but we'll see. Anyway, I digress. That was the last super chat. I appreciate you guys chopping it up. Red Wings. We had a conversation about you losing your brother before, right? Like, I'm not tripping, right? You don't have to super chat this. I'm looking at the bottom of the comments right now. Just respond yes or no. We talked about you losing your brother, right? Like, I feel like we've had this conversation before. Because if not, then yes, okay, yeah. That's why I didn't say bring it up, or I didn't talk about my condolences or anything. Phil just said my condolences, and I'm like, I'm not tripping. We've had this conversation before, so I feel like has it been a year? Has it been a year? Feels like it was somewhat recent though, like maybe 6 months ago or something like that. Maybe even like 4. But anyway, I hope everything's going well with the grieving process. It's never easy losing a loved one. But like I said, we've created a family here, a family environment. So we here, man. So 3 months ago. Okay. Yeah. It felt like it was somewhat recent. So just take it one day at a time. Members of the Cherry Squad, somebody holler at me, man. Hit me up in one of these DMs somewhere. I told y'all I owe y'all a trip to the damn thing. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all want me to come in there? I need a tutorial. I'm telling y'all, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't even remember the name of the damn thing. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Hit me up. See, it was always Big Money Sonny that was like, yo, I'll show you. But Big Money Sonny has been doing his own thing. He'll be back. But if y'all want me to come in there and kick it with y'all so I figure out what the hell's going on, somebody, Discord, there you go. Y'all hit me up. Because I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know how to work none of that shit. So I told y'all I would hit y'all up in June. We are at the end of the month. I would like to get in there and keep my word. So somebody hit me up so I can get into the damn Discord and figure out what the hell's going on. All right. Anyway, I digress. Y'all take care. Enjoy your weekend. You'll get a Reign of Terror from me tomorrow. And then you will not hear from me probably until Wednesday. So I'll be out of the office until Tuesday evening. So you probably won't hear from me until Wednesday. So between the ROTs and this live stream, that's all you're going to get from me. Enjoy 4th of July weekend. If you celebrate 4th of July, It's on a weird, it's on a Tuesday. It's a weird day. So hopefully you take advantage of that. Make it a 4-day weekend. If not, enjoy that Tuesday off. And then we'll reconvene on the other side of that. And I look forward to chopping it up with y'all as we turn the calendar to July, the best month on the calendar. Anyway, you guys have a good one. Take care. As always, post up. I'm getting in trouble with some of y'all out there. Take command. I do it with the wrong hand. I'll catch up with y'all on the other side of the 4th of July weekend. God bless. Y'all stay safe out there now. Saw a video with some firecrackers that was crazy. Y'all take care. God bless. Good night.